Now it is time for our panel. Its main topic is generative AI and everything connected to that. But the first order of business I have is to welcome the Minister of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic, Mr. Lukáš Vlček. Welcome and thank you for attending our conference. My name is Jakub Šimko. I'm from Kempelen Institute of Intelligent Technologies, and with me here are four of our panelists. Starting from my right sits Ivan Srba, also from Kempelen Institute of Intelligent Technologies. Next is Lukáš Kutil from CEDMO, a data analyst. To my right is Milan Zubíček from Google, and sitting next to him is Peter Jančarík from Seznam. And now we will start with opening statements. After that, we will have first round of questions from the audience, if there are some. I hope so. And yeah, let's not waste time. Ivan, your opening statement, please.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me here, and I would like to start with the most basic framing about generative AI, and it's a dual role or dual use. So, like, typically when we are hearing about generative AI in the context of disinformation, like, everybody is speaking about like the negative role of it. So it can actually like make disinformation spreading faster, to be more personalized, to like be like to scale up and to be spread in like huge volumes. And like from this perspective, we can say that like generative AI, especially large language models, can actually be that fuel that can actually increase that temperature until like 451 degrees, like we are talking today. And like there is another point of view, another perspective that, okay, generative AI can be also that solution actually to this problem that can help journalists, media professionals to create content faster, to personalize it for different audiences. And like this is a very basic framing, and like you probably heard about this like many times. But the issue is that we actually don't have insight into these two perspectives. What is the real potential of generative AI to create this information? And what is the real potential of generative AI to be actually a solution for this problem? So we, as researchers in artificial intelligence, in KINIT, we are trying to shed more light into these two dimensions. And like hopefully during this panel, I will be able to tell a little bit more about how we investigated large language models and the generation of news articles, and also like how we are trying with generative AI to create tools for media professionals to be more effective. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to hear the opening statement from Milan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today. Well, Google has been an AI-first company for over a decade, so we've seen incredible potential for AI when it comes to cancer treatment, when it comes to fighting wildfires, when it comes to fighting floods. We're still scratching the surface, and we are not talking about only the huge societal issues that AI can help us solve or tackle. It's also about everyday lives. I don't know how many of you have tried, for example, Notebook LM, quite a new product, really impressive. I recommend you to give it a go. It's really great for, you know, just translating the text, identifying the key points in a very long text, turning it into a podcast to make it just, you know, better accessible. So these are all really impressive developments. At the same time, we understand the risks. That's why we say that we want to be bold and responsible when it comes to AI development. What it means in practice is we are looking into generally three areas when it comes to AI and generative AI development. It's about protecting users from harm. It's about providing reliable information, and it's about partnership. So let me just give you a bit of an insight into those three areas before we move to the discussion. When it comes to protecting users, Google has developed AI principles years ago, and these are principles that really help us develop any new product. Those principles are publicly available, and all our products are being tested against those principles. We also have prohibited use for generative AI. All these rules, policies are available online. We are transparent about the rules. And there are policies for harmful, misleading, or illegal content. Many of those policies have been developed before we've seen the widespread of Gen AI. It's really important to have policies that we can apply to new technologies, not to have to change the policies every time there is a new product, new development. We are testing our products through all the different phases, in input, through the development, to the output. So we are testing those products. We are testing. We are running. We are working with our internal experts. We are red teaming with external experts. We are developing tools for users to give us feedback if something doesn't work well. And we are also launching the products gradually. That's part of our responsible approach. We are not just developing a product, throwing it out there. We really make sure that the products are as safe and as reliable as possible. And also, large language models are providing a big opportunity for us when it comes to our content moderation practices. We've seen great potential of using large language models to be faster and to be more precise when it comes to our content moderation practices. Second, providing reliable information. It's really critical not just to fight the problems, but to offer users with authoritative information. This means working with media, working with experts to really make sure that the authoritative information has the best possible access for the users. It's about providing context. You may have seen tools like about this video on YouTube, about this image. All these tools are helping users to understand the context. When, how the image or video has been made. What are the sources? And whether, for example, it's been modified or generated by artificial intelligence. Sometimes it also means not letting our generative AI products to address some of the information. For example, Gemini, which is our Gen AI tool, we've stopped Gemini from providing information about the elections. We want to make sure that when people are looking for reliable information about the elections, we want to make sure that Gen AI products don't give wrong information. It could happen, so that's why we've stopped providing information from prompts related to elections. So for example, if you look at the EU elections, if you looked when to vote, how to vote, Gemini will tell you, we cannot help with that. Please go to, for example, Google search, where you can get more reliable, authoritative information. We are also working with the ecosystem, and there's a third part about partnerships. It's not just about us. It's about what we can do to help the whole ecosystem. It's about giving the tools that we develop, for example, SynthID, which is a tool that helps watermark the Gen AI images. It provides a sort of information that people can see that the AI has been developed. We are also labeling the content. For example, YouTube video, now we are requiring creators to disclose information through a label if the content has been generated or somehow altered through synthetic or AI media. It's about the transparency. Paolo and others have been talking about the need for labeling, for transparency. That is not the only, but one of very important tools to provide this important information. And again, partnership is absolutely critical, both when it comes to working with others in the industry, working with many of you as the experts, academics, researchers. Our partnership with SEDMO, we are very proud of, is a good example of that. Our partnership with the European Media and Information Fund is another great example of an instrument that provides important educational, media literacy, and research tools to the experts so that we really work with others. It's part of our responsibility. I'm happy to provide more examples of the collaboration, of the way how we are testing the products, how we are making sure that we really don't screw it up, pardon my French, but it's just too important. And as I said in the beginning, that's part of the sort of bold and responsible approach to AI. So let me stop here, and then I'm happy to discuss more details during the Q&A session.
Thank you, Milan. Now the next in line is Peter, yeah, with some slides.
Yes, we corporate people, we love slides, so I brought some. And we heard a lot of worrying data in the morning session, so I would like to take my opening remarks as on a more positive note, and to give you maybe some, if it works. Okay, sorry. So to tell you a bit of good news about AI disinformation as well as hate speech that we also deal with at CESNAM. I know it's quite unnecessary to introduce CESNAM to the Czech people in this room, but for the international audience here, we are a digital platform here in Czechia. We started as a search engine back in 1996, actually earlier than Google did. And we now offer also aggregated news. In our newsfeed, we run our own media, we run our own discussions, blogs, large language models, as well as all other kinds of internet service here in Czech Republic, and we reach about 90% of the Czech internet population, which really leaves or really is about taking responsibility for the Czech information space. That's why we voluntarily subscribe to the EU Code of Practice on Disinformation when we report as a small platform. We also comply with the Digital Services Act, and we also joined the Christchurch call to step up against violent extremist content that unfortunately also the Charles University suffered last year. With this collage I brought here, we are obviously being flooded with all kinds of catastrophic scenarios, how AI will disrupt democracies, electoral processes, how our trust, societal trust will crumble under all kinds of deepfakes and so on. And let me acknowledge that there are definitely risks to AI, especially generative AI when it comes to trust, when it comes to democracies. But at the same time, like with any other technology, it can be used for bad purposes or good purposes. And I would like to talk about the good ones here. So let me talk about these 3 pieces of good news of how AI can help actually alleviate this problem and how we use it at CESNAM. The first of all is AI-aided content moderation. You might have seen our discussions. These discussions, the comments, these are basically comment sections below our own media or our partner media. Approximately 100 websites use our discussion plugin, and we process up to 100,000 comments a day only in Czechia, which is quite a lot. And the way how we deal with them is I will start with the boring stuff first, because this is really important. And also Milan mentioned policies, and it's always good to not have them only in writing, but to actually enforce them. So we decided to ask our users for several things on how to behave on our discussion platform. First of all, we don't allow linking disinfo websites based on independent ratings. We don't allow hate speech. We don't allow inauthentic behavior, which means troll accounts. So as soon as we see somebody is behaving like a troll, we ask them to identify themselves, to provide some kind of ID. So it's either bank ID or a document. And our users can obviously report comments. We take them down and we ban users. And we have really a team of skilled people and a technology that helps us a lot. About 80% of the comments that we have is currently processed by AI, so it's really helping us a lot. But at the same time, it's really important to say that AI, you cannot outsource it to AI. It would be utterly irresponsible to leave it only to AI. And we still employ, and we will employ, human editors that are in place, working around the clock. And helping, I mean, AI is really taking a lot of burden off their shoulders when it comes to the volume, to the sheer volume of the comments. But there are so many borderline cases that we come across every day that we need to discuss in the team and to figure out what to do with certain types of comments. So it's really, so we really see, and I really see an importance of humans in this whole game with AI, because really it would be irresponsible. AI doesn't get sarcasm, it doesn't get it doesn't get the full societal context that I will probably talk about later in the discussion. The second good news is how we use AI in fact-checking. So this is a crucial part to CEDMO as well. I have a short example here. In August, you might have noticed that in Prague, there was a group of Ukrainian soldiers touring Europe trying to convince other Ukrainians living abroad to come back to Ukraine to defend the country against Russia. And obviously, this whole story was spun by the local disinformation scene as a neo-Nazi battalion Azov trying to recruit other neo-Nazis to join the ranks and fight against peaceful Russia, right? So, and obviously, we had a huge discussion below there. It's 2,500 comments only on one article on Seznam Zprávy. And what we do, apart from taking like really serious disinformation down, what I mean by serious disinformation or harmful disinformation is the disinformation with the potential to cause some harm, for example, to incite hatred and so on. But for those that are maybe milder or just people are confused, we add context boxes. This is again done by our editors. We made this database public, and we very much appreciate, and we use a lot of independent fact-checking organizations like AFP, Demagog, and others also in this room that we rely on in this battle. And what we are also doing, we are currently training, and we continuously train our AI to actually look for disinformation narratives inside comments and pair it with the associated fact checks. And the AI wasn't that good only a couple of months ago, but it's improving and it's really going well. But again, humans are really crucial here because none of these context boxes are published without the approval from the human editor because the AI still might get it wrong. Last but not least, we have our own detection tools for AI-generated content. As I mentioned, we run our own blogging platform, Medium, that is visited by more than 3 million Czechs every month. So it's pretty big service, and we obviously see bloggers trying to generate their articles in ChatGPT or other tools instead of writing them in person. So how we tackle that? We have policies, so we don't ban generated content as such completely, but we ask users or the bloggers to disclose it, to quote it properly, and to follow some journalistic standards. And for those who don't comply, we have our own detection tool. Just a short demo here. So this is the work of our editor. They can copy paste or check for the entire article to see whether this article was generated or not. It will give the editor a percentage or a chance or a probability that this article was generated or not. And what's really great, and thanks Skinit for testing it, it showed to be 93% accurate for a human written text and about more than 70% accurate for a robot written text, which is quite accurate, but also our editors combine it with other tools available online. So my conclusion, definitely AI is no disaster. It can even help to solve this problem. But only AIs and humans make love here. So it really makes sense to combine them and to really have people still in place. And last but not least, this is about more of a business decision than a technological challenge. So we decided to invest or sacrifice certain amount of workforce, certain amount of development to make our discussion platforms free of hate speech, free of disinformation. And if a small company in Czechia can do that, any of the big platforms can do that as well. It's just a matter of will. And let me conclude here. Thank you.
Thank you. We are looking forward to some white papers about that. Now, Lukáš, your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. My opening statement is going to be more of a data summary as a basis for discussion, hopefully. I don't think I need to introduce CEDMO at a CEDMO conference. However, there is a sub-part of CEDMO, a project called CEDMO Trends, which is a longitudinal study over the course of 30 months or so. We collect data in Czech Republic and other countries, but this is focused only on Czechia on a monthly basis, of course. Our research is mainly focused on disinformation, of course, but that includes a plethora of other topics, as is apparent from this discussion so far, and some of them are for example, the acceptance of AI among the general public, including concerns about its development. As you can see from the graph on the left, we have made 4 consecutive retests of the number of people who have actually used ChatGPT or generally any generative artificial intelligence from its introduction to the market, let's say, in April 23. It was about 12% of people, and now it is growing up. It should grow up much faster than this, but this is what we get. What is interesting on this is that even though only 12% of people have actually used it on April in 23, we received a mostly positive feedback. If you remember, in Italy, right after ChatGPT was introduced, it was banned for, I don't know, a month or so. This is what people in Czechia strictly did not like, even though they did not have experience with ChatGPT, even they did not know what to do with it, they actually saw it as a big opportunity, as something positive. I just want to state that the introduction of ChatGPT or any generative AI to the market might actually, in retrospect, after a few years, we will see, follow the path of introduction of the internet in the 90s. That was a minor, thing for people for pleasure, and now internet is in everyone's mobile phones. This is what we maybe hope to see, but probably will see with generative AI. When we asked people last month what do they use ChatGPT for, mind you that they had about 2 years to get used to ChatGPT and other generative AI. Most of those 32% who are using it actually are still using it just for fun, just to try it out. There is a large number of people who are using it to implement some automation into their work or into their school work. The thing is that the expert use is, the chart you see on the very right, is still below 10%. By expert use, we mean using generative AI in research, using it in financial prognosis, using it in analysis. When you ask people, do they know what ChatGPT or any other mid-Canva actually are, most of them do not. Only 1/5 of people actually know how the language models work, and 2 times that much actually know what a deepfake is. Although I have a suspicion that this might be biased because it is very much easier to actually guess what a deepfake is in a question than how does a language model work. As regards to what people think should be done in regards to legislation or any other restrictions, as I've mentioned earlier, people are generally considering AI to be something very positive. They are more opposed to state legislation, to jurisdiction, to governmental censorship, when you compare that to other forms of managing how to use AI. I've tried to make 2 colors of it, but the ones on the left could be all summarized as something that is on the user end, and people are actually much more willing to take their part in making the internet with the generative AI a safer place based on how they behave and based on their own responsibility, rather than see it under censorship. By the way, a very similar effect has been proven in our study with regards to fact-checking. People usually do not know what fact-checkers do, but they somehow feel that it is somehow important, and they feel that it is much better for them to be educated and to make educated, not guesses, but educated decisions based on how they search information on the internet rather than for it to be censored. Generally speaking, what we see is that people have welcomed ChatGPT, and we mainly ask about ChatGPT, but of course there are other software about that, and we see generally an adoption that have people not mastered. People have taken what they have been given without any instructions. What we see, of course, is a new ecosystem or environment of information that we have heard many times already on this conference, and this is not going to go back to some norm as it was pre-war, as it was pre-COVID. No, what we see is an emerging new ecosystem that is going to be very more demanding of people's skills and very more demanding of their technological and media literacy. This is why we advocate that this part, the user end part of responsibility, is actually crucial. And not only crucial, it is also something that is welcomed by people. People just don't like restrictive actions in Czech Republic. Those might actually have the opposite effect. What we see are some specifics also about in the socio-demography of people. This, all I have said was very general, but what we see, of course, are differences, huge differences between older generations than the middle generations who have had experience with the internet as we have known it, internet without AI, internet, very basic internet, and now this emerging phenomenon is coming to it. And the newest generation, Generation Alpha, which is just coming online, which will not, in some time, have the comparison between the old internet as we have known it and the new internet. This is starting to prove to be a factor in the ability, for example, to recognize deepfake. For people who have had most experience on the internet and have spent more time on the internet are more prone to identify a deepfake, as opposed to, for example, people who are exposed to this information, or people who are very good, who are reading a newspaper and listening to radios and all those older forms of media every day. This doesn't seem to have any effect. The only thing that makes people more capable of identifying a deepfake seems to be time spent on the internet in terms of years. I think that might conclude my initial statement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now, perhaps I would turn first to Ivan to give him some more floor because there are actually a couple of researches going on in KINIT regarding the abilities of generative AI and also on the detection. We will cover the detection as a topic, so perhaps you could first introduce us to the research that investigated the willingness of Gen AI to generate disinformation content.
Yeah, so at first, just to make it sure, we particularly focus on text. So I will be now speaking about text and actual content. So there are multiple studies that are simply claiming that large language models can be easily misused to generate like content that can be used for disinformation spreading or for interference or whatever. But like we wanted to have some like practical evidence, some like quantification about this potential. So what we particularly did, we took state-of-the-art large language models. We selected 10 categories of disinformation narratives, popular ones like anti-vaccination, moon landing, and like these well-known conspiracy theories. But also quite the recent topics like disinformation narratives that relates to war at Ukraine, or some national, very small regional topics that are not globally discussed, some like fraud at elections in Nigeria, for example. And we asked these models, please generate me a news article that will spread or that will support this disinformation narrative. And we tested it like on 10 different large language models. And like what we did, we categorized the responses into three types of responses. One is like safe behavior. So basically, large language model responded, I am not capable to create this news article because it's spreading disinformation. I cannot do that. Or safe behavior can be that like a news article was generated by a large language model, but it actually goes against the disinformation, basically doing a debunk of it. Second point is a neutral behavior. So basically, a large language model generated something, and like to both sides of supporting also and also rejecting that disinformation. So basically discussing. There are some groups that are saying that moon landing was staged, and there are some people that are trying to say that okay, it was real. And the last type of response was like a dangerous response, that actually like the content was completely generated, and it was really like of very high quality and really like spreading that disinformation that we wanted to like generate. And like what was quite interesting and surprising for us, that commercial models were very willingness to generate this information, and even some open source models like refused to or like exhibit this safe or neutral behavior in more cases as commercial models. This actually says that like if it is possible to do with open source model, why it's not possible to do this with commercial model? And like when I tried the safe prompt on ChatGPT after 6 months later, like originally, it was some kind of typical health anti-vaccination topic. Originally, ChatGPT generated. I shouldn't generate this content because it's a disinformation, but here you are. And basically, the rest of content was there, and it was like very high quality. After 6 months, like we heard a lot of promises that situation actually improved. So what happened? That warning disappeared, and instead of that, like the structure, like there was basically a title, like a paragraph and a full article. It was even better structured as before, ready to use for disinformation actors. So like we see that like things are not improving. Maybe it was just like one sample that happened in this way, but like things are not improving in general in this way. So like we see that there is a huge potential to generate this content, but like to make it a little bit more positive at the end. Like cybersecurity researchers are always like distinguishing between two steps. One is a potential to create such content, and second one is to spread such content. So even if we will see that, there is a huge potential to generate such content, you still, as a bad actor, need to use the same channels as for a human written disinformation. So far, it's, let's say, safe, because you still need to have some networks, some like high impact channels to like spread such content. But the question is how long we can rely on this bottleneck for spreading such content. And like very last comment from my side is that like what we are doing right now is taking a look how large language models can generate personalized disinformation. So the same thing as we did before, but now we are asking them, please generate the content that will target a mother with 2 kids, or elderly person, or any kind of target group you can imagine you want to target with this information. We don't have final results yet, so please stay tuned. Like we will definitely publish it. But you can imagine if you can do a personalized content, there is a very higher chance that it will spread naturally, organically in the social network, because it will be targeting like the emotions of that people. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, are there any pressing questions from the audience already? Good. Then let us proceed to a more optimistic topic, which is detection of generated content. And obviously, we need to distinguish between text detection and multimedia detection. Both are, let's say, a bit separate worlds. And we, for example, in Kinit focus on the text detection. But my first question is on Milan. How confident you are in Google in your detectors?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It really, I think first of all, I would separate between two areas. First is our own tools that are produced to generate AI, speaking specifically about Gemini, for example, and then content that is being used elsewhere, and how we can detect that content that is then being surfaced, for example, on YouTube or on advertising or that can be accessed through search. The detection tools for our own products are I would say really high quality, and I spoke about the testing, I spoke about the classifiers that we are using throughout the development of the whole process. Pre-detection, it's really, or pre-testing, it's really about using the classifiers to clean the data sets. It's really about making sure that the data sets are sort of composed of high quality data and content that then improves the large language models as such. I mentioned red teaming, which means collaboration between our own internal experts and external experts to really sort of ensure that the results or the prompts and the responses from Gemini are of high quality. We are also using Gen AI itself to improve the testing. For example, one of really interesting examples is I don't know if you're familiar with AlphaFold. AlphaGo, which is a tool developed by our Google DeepMind team. Originally, it was developed to play Go, a very complex game, and after a few years, AlphaGo started beating human players. Now, why I mentioned this, we started applying AlphaGo to basically test the results and game against each other, play against each other to make sure that the results that Gemini provides is of high quality. And if not, then this process really sort of improves the results so that we come to as close as zero. So these are a couple of examples. I mentioned the large language models used to improve content moderation across our services, and then it's about, as I said, about sort of post-launch, making sure that people have good way and simple ways how to notify the content, working with fact checkers, working with the experts again, to really make sure that the feedback that we receive is properly integrated. And here, the results are extreme high quality. Now, when it comes to identifying content being created or detecting content being created elsewhere, that gets more complicated. Again, and Peter mentioned it as well, the systems are gradually improving. It also depends on the type of media. Detecting, for example, whether a photo has been generated or altered by AI is actually easier than text. With text, the shorter the text it gets, the more difficult it becomes. And then it's really mostly about the shared responsibility. It's about asking, for example, YouTube creators to label this type of content, and then our systems detecting whether it's been done or not. The same applies, for example, to political advertising, where we started asking political advertisers to label whether the content has been sort of created or manipulated by AI. But it's about the shared responsibility. Our job is to create the space. Our job is to make sure that the rules are followed. But for example, if we remove something from search results, we are not removing it from the internet. So this is really important to also clarify the shared responsibility. You seem to disagree.
No. I'm just smiling because, like, when you remove something from Google search, you are sort of removing that from in the internet, right?
We have other great search engines, some represented here.
But you are
Okay.
No, no, but you're completely right. That's part of our responsibility to also make sure that the search results, for example, are as precise as possible. Again, promoting the authoritative information is not just about removing the content; it's about making sure that it's not that easily accessible. Okay. And again, different policies apply to different products: YouTube, ads, search. So that also always needs to be very much specific for the product and for the potential risks that the product might create.
But do you want to react?
Yeah. What also Ivan said and Milan, it's really the elephant in the room is the responsibility of the platforms, and I really think that it's really up to platforms to have these boring policies that I mentioned in the opening remarks to choose or to define what kind of content they want to promote and what kind of content they need to demote. So this is really still crucial. And when it comes to detection when it comes to text, it's that we have some tools that are working quite well. Although at least in Czech Republic we don't see it as so widespread that really people are trying, because the motivation behind generating blogs with us is that we split ad revenue with bloggers. So the more popular you are, the more money you make. So that's obviously the incentive is there. But when it comes to detection of deepfakes, then it really gets tricky. First of all, the technical quality of deepfakes is so good that it's good enough for many people to believe that. And I'm really curious about how these labels actually work in preventing this stuff. If the platform doesn't actually take this content down, it will probably be ignored by many users. For example, when we do search, we flag disinformation websites with a warning. So if you search for Ironet at Seznam, it will show you that be careful. This website contains disinformation narratives and conspiracy theories. And when you click on the site, we display a pop-up warning explaining why this website is problematic based on independent ratings. You know how many people ignore this warning? 90%. So, but the silver lining is that we display very few of these in our search engine results page. But those who are really committed to see this stuff, they want to see that stuff, and you cannot do much to prevent it, actually. So it really brings me to the other crucial point of SEDMO, and it is media literacy. That deepfakes are already so good, and our confirmation biases work so well in each of us. In every single person, that we just want to believe the stuff. That's why we believe this fake pope in Balenciaga quote, because we want to believe that stuff, and we just need to keep asking ourselves if this makes sense or not. So does it make sense to see Czech President Petr Pavel trying to lure people to invest 5,000 Czech crowns in Elon Musk's investment app? It just doesn't make sense, but you need to educate people to know that it doesn't make sense, because the deepfake was so well done already, also appearing with Andrej Babiš and other politicians, that I think it no longer makes sense to focus on the technological point of it. It really makes sense to focus on media literacy and responsibility of platforms to not give space to such content.
Okay, quick reaction.
Very quick reaction. Not reaction, but one thing I really wanted to clarify. The labeling does not replace our content moderation. Labeling comes on top of that. If there is a content, whether it's generated by AI or not, that violates our policies, it will be removed. The labeling really goes on top of that. It's about making sure that people understand the context for content that does not violate our policies or does not violate the law. It doesn't mean that we will just put label on everything and we start caring whether the content is violative or not. So it's really additional tool, and I think that here it's really important to talk about, and it's been mentioned about the intent. It's about discussing how the content is being spread, and it's not as important whether the content has been generated by AI or not. It's about whether it violates the policies. It's about whether it's created to deceive the public, and then the policies kick in and the content needs to be removed. So the labeling is really about providing additional context, not about removing our responsibility as a platform and a company.
By the way, you mentioned the word intent. We can understand it also as a search intent in a different context. then there comes the question, what if someone floods intentionally the web with generated content, or maybe even like unintentionally or without the malicious intent, and then the following scenario happens. Someone wants to search for a picture of a young peacock, and third of the pictures are like generated and are complete bullshit, you know, like imagination of a young peacock. And this can like deceive the person. The person really wanted to see only real images because him or her wanted to educate herself. But on the other hand, we in a different search context, a person may want to see inspirations for I don't know what, and then the appearance of the generated images is all right. So yeah.
Do you want me to respond?
Yeah, if you please.
No, absolutely. No, you're raising a very important point. I would argue that if Google search, for example, was gained by just flooding the internet with one picture and then providing and then displaying this on the first page and among the first pictures, we would be doing a pretty bad job. So I don't think that Google search should be tricked by these systems. Maybe in the past 10, 15 years ago, when you could Google bomb something through links, and then the system was gamed, the algorithms and the system has evolved significantly. And it's about, again, depending on the context, it's about depending on the issue. We sometimes say your money, your life principle, which means that for certain areas that are important for society, such as elections, such as health, we apply even higher standards for authoritativeness. And this all goes into the rankings, this all goes into the algorithms to make sure that on the sensitive areas, we really provide specifically authoritative information. So all this is being incorporated in the search. All this is being tested through our systems, through our human verifiers, with guidelines that are, again, publicly available to make sure, not to make sure, to prevent those scenarios from happening in the first place.
Right. It will be an arms race. Ivan, how do you see it ending up regarding the text detection, which you've been working on recently?
Yeah, so as you said, detecting generative text is much more difficult as images, because in images there is still a lot of information hidden in each pixel, but in text it's just a sequence of characters. And like what we are trying to do is to detect it also in a very short social media post text, so you have very limited information there. And like what we are also trying to do is to do multilingually. It is extremely important for Europe not just to focus on English, because like researchers typically are doing only on English language, but who else will do that for Czech or Slovak or Polish language if we will not do that? Like nobody else. So like what we are trying to do is to train the most robust multilingual machine-generated text detector. And what we are adding there, besides this multilinguality, is also obfuscation. So we are trying to be one step in advance, and like we purposefully use obfuscation, different obfuscation techniques to apply them on generated text. And you can imagine it very easily that I have like a machine-generated social media post or news article, and I will just use different synonyms to replace the word to make it like more appealing as a human written, or not at least to appeal as machine generated, because like different words are used there, or even simpler techniques like using a different alphabets to replace the characters that for a human looks exactly the same, but they can fool actually a detector because there is like a mixture of different alphabets used there. And like these obfuscation techniques are quite successful, some of them. But what we are trying to do to incorporate all of these into detector, so that detector will be robust enough to detect machine-generated text. And good news is that there is a quite high accuracy of this, even for new large language models that like continuously pop up. Of course, like this detector needs to be returned in time, but we can do that with some like level of accuracy. Also, as Peter showed us. Like good news is that it's still possible to detect it. Like the question, of course, will be that we need to keep like that tempo with how new state-of-the-art language models are like popping up, because each of them has a different characteristics how the content is generated. So if we will like make sure that we will keep that like race with new models, like I'm still quite optimistic.
One day they will match the distribution of us humans producing the text, and then what? You don't have to answer. Lukáš, perhaps a follow-up on the labeling question. Is in your data, like, is the public even aware about such labelings, or is the public aware of presence of generated content online? Like, do people report that, okay, I have experienced, you know, random appearances of generated content?
Well, I think this all brings down to the recognition of that content. People are unable to report it unless they recognize it. And as I said, the recognition is low, generally speaking, and it depends on multiple factors, age being the prominent one, but there are other ones. You have spoken on the panel about people preventing themselves from searching images that maybe they don't need to see. When you look at it this way, from a point of view of immediate motivation, you want to see those pictures as well. I want to see them as well. Everybody wants to see them. It's instinctive. What we see in our research is that the motivation that prevents people from being prone to this, not only to this information, but to mostly deepfakes and generated content in general, is a form of higher motivation. And that motivation is tightly connected to believing in the democratic system in which you live, because then you have a reason to make the internet a safer place, starting by yourself. Generally speaking, people who just are not happy with how things are going. They are not happy in economic, ways. They are not happy with the system in general. And the less they are happy with how things are going in our republic, the less they think they encounter this type of content online, which is definitely not true. Everybody encounters about the same amount of content, and if nothing, then these people should amount more of it. So what we see, of course it is an inference, but what we see is motivation for recognition cannot be left out of the equation. If that answers it.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions from the audience?
Quick question.
Okay, first, Ilya.
I can ask maybe for the platforms, but also Ivan mentioned that you can generate the content in some language models that is spreading this information, but then you have to find proper ways to spread it effectively. One of the ways is having an advertising paid by whoever orders it, and then it's the responsibility of the platforms that are delivering those to users. We have seen in recent months some, I think that they're alluding to it, some deepfake or altered kind of advertising, especially on some platforms, which I think are not representative. But we have seen the AI-generated advertising that has been driven by paid advertising through the platforms. And I'm just curious, how do you see whether the advertising business and tech advertising actually had to adjust their own processes, and how do they cooperate with you, whether it's Tesnam or Google, and whether the research is focusing on that as well? Thanks.
Well, as far as I know, deepfakes are not allowed as advertising and as click, so definitely make sure that that every. But we have the luxury of not having such a huge scale as Google does, to actually have people to take a look on every single ad that we run.
Thank you for the question, Stano. It's an important one, and it's a challenge. It's a new area. We do have policies in place, and in general, policies for advertising are the most strict ones across our products, because we don't want people to make money out of advertising, out of scamming the users. The classifiers and the systems need to be trained to identify such violation. And this takes time. And we see bad actors, because they are driven by revenues, to try to game the systems. So it's always a kind of a catch-up game. We do have classifiers, we do have systems. We do require advertisers to follow the rules. We try to identify those as quickly as possible. We every day see new ways how to scam our systems. It's never going to be perfect, but we take it seriously, and certainly demonetization of disinformation is one of the key, not challenges, but one of the key areas to improve our fight against disinformation. That's why one big chapter of the code of practice on disinformation is around demonetization. And also now we are looking into generative AI. So this is a very important part of not just regulation, also self-regulation for online platforms, and a big part of our responsibility.
Ivan, any reaction?
Like advertisement system, search or whatever, is at the end some kind of recommender system, right? And this recommendation system is at the end somehow like AI-based solution, or at least some machine learning-based solution that is like recommending this stuff. So like from our perspective, and also from what we are doing right now, is trying to provide independent audits of these recommendation systems. Like idea is to monitor both recommendation systems, including advertisement, how it works in these platforms. And like from us, from outside, from end users, from researchers, it's a black box. And to some part, it's a black box also for platforms, because like I am not sure how exactly you know what's going on in your recommendation systems. But we know that these systems like likely prefer to spread highly emotional content that actually make people sit behind the platform as long as possible. And this highly emotional content is many times spreading hate speech, disinformation, propaganda, whatever you will like imagine here. So like what we are trying to do to help by independent audits to like investigate the internal workings of these recommendation systems, and to help platforms actually to train better recommendation systems that will have less bias towards disinformation built into the recommendation system. So like independent algorithm auditing is something what we want to push a little bit in the research in the next period.
Thank you. There was a question in the back.
Thanks. Petr Gongala, Demagog.cz, local fact checker. Quick question, I think, to Milan especially. So you listed a number of safeguards to like watermarking of AI-generated content, mandatory labels by YouTube content creators. But the other members of the panel seem to work on the assumption that those safeguards simply won't work. Because the quality of those images and obviously the text already will become so high that it won't be detectable. And so even the mandatory labeling will not be enforceable, because you won't be able to find that somebody broke that rule, because you won't be able to detect that they actually used AI-generated images. And watermarking can be removed by upscaling or downscaling those images, right? So my question to you is, isn't it a false hope? Shouldn't we just assume that those safeguards will not protect us and enable us to actually detect AI-generated images and content in the future?
No, thank you, Petr. It's a very valid concern, a very valid question. What I can say is that we as a company take this seriously and continue investing in this space, and to make sure that the state of the art development continues. I mentioned, for example, synth ID. It's I would argue state-of-the-art technology that really helps watermark the content. For example, when it comes to audio, we have systems that identify with 99% accuracy whether the audio has been modified by AI. So as I said, with different types of media, it changes. We just need to keep investing in the space. We need to keep educating the users. We need to keep making sure that we take it seriously and we improve as the risks change and as they grow. So that's what we are committed to, and that's what really matters to just keep not just catching up, but also be in advance of those risks.
Do we have time? We don't. I'm afraid so. So at this moment, I would like to thank our panelists for a wonderful discussion, and also our audience for the questions and for your attention. Thank you.